How's it going, folks? This is Wayne R, back with something a little bit different today. We got Christmas sort of fastly approaching, so I thought I'd sort of do a quick lesson on those that are sort of either upgrading the guitar or it's the first time they're buying a guitar. So I'm just going to talk about a few guitars that I'd recommend and what to look for when you're sort of buying a guitar. So the first guitar I'm going to talk about is the acoustic. Obviously, if you're regular to my channel, you see different, obviously, guitars that I use. My main guitar is the Taylor. That's the one, it's sort of my baby. It sounds great. It's just, obviously, it's took me sort of 10 years to sort of get to a guitar like that, saving up because they are quite expensive. But I've also got a lot of, other guitars that I regularly use and when I gig. And, one acoustic guitar that I highly recommend is sort of an Epiphone. This is an Epiphone Dove. A similar model to this is the Hummingbird. I've also got the EJ200 that you see me using. That's slightly more expensive. So one of these you can sort of get between probably 150 and 200 pounds. But obviously you can, if you're lucky, you can pick up some bargains on eBay. If you are buying off eBay, obviously ask the seller to send you loads of sort of photographs and check there's no serious cracks on it or dings or any real cosmetic damage or anything like that. Don't be scared of asking any questions, and obviously check the seller's feedback. Obviously, if they got sort of 84%, anything below that, obviously I'd stay well clear. But having said that, you can get some bargains. One of my students just recently bought a guitar the same as this, and I think he got it for about 70 quid, and that actually, believe it or not, came with a hard case. Now a hard case alone you'd be paying 50 quid at least. So that's I'm not just saying, and I'm not plugging Epiphone sort of exclusively. I haven't got sort of an endorsement deal or anything like that. I wish, but it's just a guitar that I sort of favour. I think they're very pretty looking. Obviously the Dove's got the nice Divine, the EJ200, even the Hummingbird, sort of great guitars. But I think even cheaper than that, under sort of £100, I think Epiphone do sort of a great line of guitars, and they sound great through a PA system if you're doing an open mic night or anything like that. Sound great through an amp. But if you're looking for something more, obviously if it's your first time, I think most of you saw my reviews of the Glary guitars that I did. So obviously a guitar for under 50 quid, they're not bad guitars at all. But I think if you're after something a bit more flashy, I don't think you're going to go wrong with an Epiphone. One thing to look for if you do go, now I always recommend that people go in a shop, even if you're not buying it from the shop. I know we all know you can get stuff cheaper off the internet, but please do go in the store and mention that, because a lot of them will sort of price match the internet. Don't just assume, I'll go and get it cheaper off the internet. We should support shops, because shops are sort of really struggling at the moment, and most staff are really helpful. But a good thing is you can go and sit down and try the guitar out. One thing to look for, especially on an acoustic guitar, is look for the string action. Make sure that it's quite low to the fretboard. You don't want nothing that's sort of raised up there that you can get a buzz through, because they're sort of horrible to play. And if you're a beginner as well, it's going to put you off learning a guitar. Although you can have them set up, but if you're spending obviously more than £100 on a guitar, you want it sort of half right to start off with. So there we go. Epiphones, Fender do a good line of guitars. Yamaha, but obviously anything under £50 I'd recommend maybe have a look at the Glary guitar or something like that. Don't buy anything from sort of Smith's Toys or anything like that, or anything that they're horrible. They've got nylon strings on. They're sort of toy guitars at the end of the day. Obviously buy something proper from a proper music store. Obviously a bit more advice is a gig bag or a decent case that you can get with the guitar. Obviously get some picks. That's like a little stocking filler for Christmas. A capo is a good sort of recommendation, especially if you're learning songs on my channel. There's a lot of stuff that we do with a capo. A spare set of strings, as I probably already said. There you go. So that's tip number one for an acoustic guitar. There we go. Okay, so tip number two, if you're after an electric guitar. Now, one of the first guitars I ever had was an old, I think it was a Fender Stratocaster. Well, it wasn't even a Fender Stratocaster, it was a copy. But the great thing with these guitars is they're very, very easy to play. They've got a lovely thin neck on them. They're very comfortable to use. They've got a nice slim body on them. Nice when you're sitting down. They're nice to play standing up. Just a very, very versatile guitar as well. Obviously having the 5-way pickup. I think you can play most styles of music on it. And I know that obviously, I think this one, I've had this one for years. This is actually a USA one, lovely guitar. One of my favourite guitars, actually, this. But obviously, Fender Squier, if you get the Squier range, do a very good range. Obviously, I think they do a deal that you can get with an amp for about 150 quid. As I said with the acoustic, if you shop around on eBay, you might get yourself one for less than 100 quid with an amp as well. Obviously, go into the shop and try one out. There's a Yamaha Pacifica, I think, which is similar. That's based on the Strat there. Very good sort of beginners guitars. But very easy to play and great for learning bar chords, Stratocasters. As I sort of mentioned before, you know, they've got a very sort of thin neck on them. So, you know, one of those, a Squier, sort of highly recommended. And they all come. One of my personal favourites is a Sunburst one. Obviously, the red Fiesta red ones are nice, or a white one, if you want to look like Hendrix or whatever. I can't guarantee you'll play like Hendrix, mine, but there we go. So there we go, Fender Stratocaster. Okay, so another recommendation if you're into the indie or Oasis stuff. You know, there's a lot of that. Obviously, the Regulus to my channel. I know there's a lot of people who follow that. So the guitar that Noel tends to use a lot is this sort of a semi-acoustic guitar, and this is a Dot E 335, based on the 335 by the Gibson. I've actually got the Gibson version. This is a backup guitar, and I've got to say, this is probably one of the most reliable guitars that I've ever had. It's very easy to play. Action's nice and low on it. The pickups sound great. I think you can pick these up for, if you shop around, for probably just under £200 now, and sort of highly recommended guitar. Sound great through an amp with a bit of overdrive on, or a tube screamer with a bit of delay on, or something like that. And also a little bit like a Stratocaster, they're very versatile as well, so not just for sort of rock or indie stuff. You know, these are great for jazz if you want to play a bit of jazz, or a bit of sort of even metal. You know, they sound great cranked up, you know, for some distortion, stuff like that. And I just love the size of it. With me being quite a big bloke anyway, I think a guitar like this suits me a little bit better with being a big body guitar. So so there we go, a highly recommended guitar, the Epiphone Dot. There we go. Okay, so thanks very much for watching, and as I said, I'm not under any endorsement deal to plug these guitars. It's just recommendations that I've had a lot of guitars over the years, and these have sort of stood the test of time. You know, they haven't let me down. So guitars like this, or obviously the Stratocaster, or the 335, the Dot, they've been amazing guitars, and I'm not sort of, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But you won't go far wrong if you are into, you know, the music that I play and things like that. These are the best sort of guitars, and I think they're all very sort of pretty looking as well. But if you have got any other, you know, questions about anything, if you want any advice about anything, tips for Christmas or anything like that, you could either find me a personal message over on social media. I'm Wayne R Guitar on Twitter, Facebook, and now also Instagram. Or you could just comment in the post below. So until next time, if I don't see you before, have a great Christmas, and I'll catch you soon.